Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it.
The JAMODI podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
You've been able to talk with a lot of great coaches, be around some as a player and also as an assistant coach. What are three characteristics, could be more, that you see in great coaches?
The first one that comes to mind is relational. I think just anybody who's in the coaching world, you at least you get in it. Maybe that's not why you stay in it, or maybe it changes over time, but you get in it because you had a great coach, someone who, who changed your life as an athlete, or, you want to change the lives of people, or maybe you didn't have a great coach and you go, well, I don't want a kid to have that experience. I want to get into coaching to give, so I thought about saying personable instead of relational, but the more I thought about it, I think you can be a great coach and not necessarily be personable, but you can be relational. At the end of the day, does a kid know that you have their back and you have their best interest in mind, or that you love them, that you support them? And not everyone is extremely personable who is a great coach, but they are relational and they are able to communicate that. It's like, this was not my experience growing up, but someone who has a dad maybe who never said that they loved them, but you always felt that. You always knew that. Like he never said it, but I knew because he did this. And so there are some coaches who maybe don't ever say it, but their guys know, this guy's there for me. So someone who's relational, players drive programs. And so if that's not if that's not most important, it has to be at the top of the list, I feel like, and I think we do a good job of that here. One thing for me, and this probably doesn't apply to everyone, but is flexible. No, not that long ago, my way or the highway with everything was effective and it worked. And maybe just it worked because of the rules at the time at the college level, right? My way or the highway for most things is not going to be effective. And so you have to have some flexibility. What are the things that are really important? And, as Christian, okay, and I know we haven't talked a lot about this, but, over my faith journey, what I've learned is there's some things that are really important and I need to hold fast to those things. Yeah. And there are some things that aren't quite as important and people can have different opinions on me about that. And we're still on the same team. And so the same with coaching, right? There's some things that are really important and you cannot lower those standards. You can't, but you have to figure out what those things are. We had a rebounding philosophy at the beginning of the year, and midway through the year, we were going, why are we doing this? We have two guys who are averaging less than an offensive rebound per 40 minutes, and we're sending them to the glass. That makes no sense. So
that's a good point.
Instead of our transition defense being bad, let's just send those two guys back every time they're, so being flexible on the floor and off the floor. I try to, again, off the floor, I want the players to feel like they have a voice, but they can't have a voice for everything either, right? And so understanding off the floor, is this a time to ask the team or ask a couple of guys, what do you think about this? And having some flexibility in that, or going, no, I need to make this decision, so flexibility, again, that may not be for everyone, but I think that's a big one for me. And then accountability.
Let me jump in before accountability, because you mentioned two great words. I don't want to go through all three and then forget some of but relational. You mentioned like how a lot of coaches got into it because they had a great coach. And I never really thought about that. I'd love to know the connection between guys that got in that, like for me, Coach Thomas at the Colony is one of the most influential people in my life. So I think people when I was younger saw, like my senior year, Coach Drew and those guys called me Coach Saman. I don't know if it was condescending or what, no, but like I think people saw that maybe that was the route. And Coach Thomas would tell me, he told me in high school, don't do it because you won't make any money. But you know, like, I don't know if there's a lot of people, and maybe there are some, but I would say if it's a pie chart, the biggest chunk of people that are coaching is because they had somebody that did influence them like that. There is a possibility that, hey, that was a train wreck, not on my watch. Maybe that's out there, but that was a great connection there.
Yeah, my dad was my high school coach. I grew up in a coaching family, you know, and I knew I wanted to coach. I sat on the bench from, you know, a small school in East Texas is where I grew up. Probably can't tell from my accent that I grew up in Texas, but small school, East Texas, sat on the bench. You know, I was, you know, from kindergarten through 8th grade. But my dad had a huge effect on me wanting to get into coaching, but also at that same small school, right? You played other sports, and my football coach, my high school baseball coach just won his 500th game this past week. And again, small school. So he was the offense coordinator for football and also the baseball coach. But you know, like,
and the janitor too. He did it all. Yeah.
When you're the baseball coach, there's a lot of maintenance that goes with that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But I sent him a text this week and said, you know, he's someone who has, you know, who deeply affected my life as a 16, 17, 18-year-old. And we don't talk, you know, it's not like we talk all the time, but he knows what he means to me. And so it was cool to just celebrate him winning his 500th baseball game.
Cool.
But yeah, lots of, you know, that's why most people get into it, is because they had a great coach and they go, I want to have that same effect on somebody.
I wonder why flexibility, I was thinking of why flexibility is so hard. I struggled with that. I probably ruined a lot of player relationships in my first 10 years, including my time here at Faith early on, because of a lack of flexibility. And I think it has to do with pride. The fact that somebody else at this school feels like what they're doing is as important as what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that dance needs the gym, dance? Like, are you serious? Well, no, to them, it's just as important.
Yeah.
Their district run, their state champion, all those things that we talk about, right, are maybe the outward goals or outside goal. Like, but we got to give up our pride, and we've got to accept the fact that we're not that important. And what we're doing, while, yes, we're going to shoot for excellence in the grand scheme of things, we're just a small part of the school, of the athletic department. We are not the athletic department. But man, when that flexibility, when you feel that rigidness come up and unwilling to adapt, and I have to remind myself of this daily because I'm thinking of failures even in the last probably month or two, right? But I think that you have to check your pride in those moments.
For sure. And you have to be okay with just saying, we did it this way and it's not working. And as a head coach, that can be really hard to do that. And I would say that's not a one-time thing. If you're able to say, you know, if the guys are hearing you say that, maybe not even necessarily basketball related, but like, hey, we tried this and this wasn't we tried the Lions games. I thought
Guys, that was a miss. That was
gonna be
that same and
I thought it was going to be a great idea, and I was so fired up about it. And you know, we won't do it again. But thanks for.
Coach, I really hope you do it. I really hope. How cool would it be to see a college program do that, and to see maybe the little kid come out? And that's what I see. And I see the little kid come out again, and that's really fun. But yeah, keep going.
Yeah, but just there are non-basketball opportunities for you to say those things for most coaches, and just not being afraid to just go, hey, I thought this would be a good idea and it wasn't, or we tried this and we're going to pivot. You know, there were moments this year, especially as a first-year head coach,
yeah,
where I was messing. You know, I messed up a lot this year, and just having the openness to go, hey, thanks for trying it this way. We learned how to not do it now, and we won't do it again. You know, and so maybe when you're making a big philosophical change or something, as a high school coach, probably, you know, you have to adapt to your personnel maybe more than at the college level where we're getting to recruit to a system. All of the best coaches in any sport at any level have made major changes the longer they're in the game. You used to play basketball 3 out, 2 in, and the ball was in the paint. And, as someone who coached for 40 years at a very high level, Mike Krzyzewski or whoever you want to say, you played one way, and then at some point you go, here's where the game's moving, and we're going to make this change. And so being flexible, being able to adapt, and the pride piece is a big point of just going, I messed up, I was wrong, whatever. I think that goes a long way with the players.
I apologize. This is my last point. We'll hit accountability. I've been the guy that every decision that's made around a school, everything that's done by parents, anything the players do just pisses me off. Like I've had an opinion on everything. And I think there's probably a lot of other coaches on here like that. To your point about our faith, there are things with our faith, with society, and how those two things, maybe where there's friction, we need to have an opinion and we need to be prepared to stand firm. No doubt. But there are so many things that happen throughout the day that we don't have control over, but that get us riled up, that we have an opinion on, that maybe this will help. It helps me give ourselves the ability to not have an opinion on something. I think Ryan Holiday talked about that a lot, and I don't know what Stoic said it, but it was, you have the ability to choose what you have an opinion on and what you don't. There might just be freedom in there, because if another, let's just say another coach from another program is saying or doing something, even within your own school, and man, it just ruffle your feathers, can you affect change with that? Like, is there anything you could do? If there's not, and there's anything you feel like you need to do, you need to go meet. But if there's not, it just bugs you, choose to not have an opinion, let it go, and maybe we can find just a little bit more peace, steadiness throughout the day.
Yeah, great advice. No, definitely.
Accountability.
I'll touch on that very briefly. I feel like just relational and flexible they were number 1 and 2 on my list for a reason. But with the flexibility is also, having accountability, making sure, like, one of the things that I learned this year, again, lots of mess ups, lots of mistakes, was whatever you want your culture to be, you have to live that out every day, and you have to hold people to that standard every day. And that can be exhausting at times, but it's also critical, because if you just let the big stuff go and you just let it go and let it go and let it go, you're going to look back 3, 6 months, a year from now and go, how did it get like this? Where did it happen? And it's because you weren't willing to have the hard conversation that was needed at that time. Having the wisdom, not everything calls for a big conversation or a big meeting or whatever, having the wisdom and discernment to know the difference, but also just going like, this is the standard, here's how we do it, and you're going to meet the standard on the things that are really important. So if that's rebounding, making sure that if we send 4 to the glass, that we're going to send 4 to the glass every possession. If that's the shot quality that we're concerned about, then making sure that we're getting the shots we want at the time we want, or whatever. Just the accountability piece on and off the floor, that was the third piece. I think that great coaches, that they do it for the things that are important to them. If you're doing that for everything, you're probably you're going to lose a lot of guys. At our level, especially, they're going, this is not the place for me. But on the stuff that's really important, again, knowing what those things are, then making sure you're holding people accountable to that.
That question you brought up earlier in our talk about, does this lead to winning? I think that's where that comes into play. Does what shoe brand they wear matter? Does it lead to winning at all? If not, what do we care? Why do we care? Yeah. And if it, like, we used to do team shoes because I like the idea of, that's what we did in high school. That's what we did in college. I like the idea of us looking like one unit, like an army, even though we're not an army and we don't go to battle. We play games. But one of my best players years ago came up and said, Coach, these shoes are killing me. Like I typically wear Nike. These are Under Armour. Yeah. I was like, hey, go get some Nikes right now. So figure out a way to allow choice, give them choice over the things that don't really matter to me. Maybe they're important to them. They don't really affect winning, but then also too, like, I can be on board with it. And so the compromise was any brand of shoe It just has to be mainly white.
Yeah.
If I watch film, I should be able to say they all wear white shoes. If you'd send me a picture like, is this white? It's not white. If you have to ask me, is it white? Then it's not. Like you'll know. And then the secondary colors, they're just going to go in line with our school. So we're not going to go green. We're not going to go yellow. We're red, navy, like every other private school in America. We're red, navy, and white. And so, but Coach, that was so inflexible. Inflexible.
I'm not sure. Honestly, I'm the wrong person to ask for sure.
Unflexible. So non-flexible for years on things like that. And then just had to figure out, like, what do I really want what lines do I really need to draw? And what lines am I just fighting just to be difficult? And then Paul Mills said at Wichita State, he said, if you're in coaching, you have to be willing to confront people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to be willing to do that at the end of the day. If that is something that terrifies you, slippage will happen, in my opinion.
Well, it sounds like you've had our office bug, because we've had this shoe conversation, like our assistant coach, Bradley Spencer he does the gear stuff. And
yeah,
it was like, do we want to do a team shoe? Do we want to just let them get their own? Do we want to let them wear whatever? And I was like, man, I really do not care at all. And he was like, and because he runs it, that's his thing. He goes, I would love for it to be, a black or white shoe and not, green, purple, whatever.
Yeah.
And you're in charge of that, and that's great. And just communicate that, and we're good to go. So, the Nick Saban quote, if you want everyone to like you, sell ice cream. That's in my head constantly, because that is, that's a new thing for me this year, is I'm making decisions that, I know for a fact with most decisions I make, some people will like it and some people won't. And as a coach, right? Even playing time, I feel like, is the big elephant in the room when it comes to this. But there's 5 people on the floor, which means that there's X number of people who aren't getting to play. Or maybe you have 1 or 2 people on your team who are playing all the time and they're good, right? But then everyone else is like, I wish so if you want everyone to like you, sell ice cream. And then just, being honest and open and being able to have tough conversations and not running from those, not pushing those off, not going, we'll get to it, never really is what you're saying, but, just making sure that you're willing to hold people accountable for the things that need to be emphasized.
Yeah. And let's not intentionally or unintentionally steal their joy.
Yeah.
It's there needs to be some fun in here.
Mm-hmm.
And I am all for standards and pillars. I like things to be sharp. I don't like wasting time. Part of that is just organization on our part, but part of it is how they approach things as well. But I think we're asking coaches, like, and myself, great questions to ask yourself is, in what ways am I stealing joy? If it's intentional, like, I know they really want to do this and I don't really care if they do or not, but I'm not going to let them. Why do that? I think it's more unintentional. We don't realize the fun that we're taking, that we could give them, that doesn't really affect the approach, our culture, winning. I'm never talking about having a standardless society or team where there's no culture and you just let them do whatever. You just won't have a job for very long, and you definitely won't win. But man, within the structure that we want to have, where can we stretch? Where can we bend? Where can we throw some line games or an NBA skills competition in? And how can we be flexible with their shoes? I don't care what they travel in. I want them to travel in something. I don't care what they wear. So guys, here's your 5 options. Choose one.
Yep.
Why do I have to choose that? Choose one. I don't care. But so I think the art of it maybe is they get to choose what they want, but it's all what I want, right? Like, it's all within that.
Yeah, a great question that a head coaching friend of mine asks is, and most coaches played on some level, right? They played junior high school, college, professionally, whatever. Most basketball coaches played at some level, or have been in a team environment, whether that was when they got to college, they were a student assistant or whatever. They've been around the game and they know what it should look like. And so the question that they ask is, would I want to play for me? And coach played at a very high level, but that doesn't mean we play lines games all the time, or it doesn't mean we just goof around and have fun. But when you talk about stealing their joy, like, what are the things as a player that got you excited? There are those drills that you hate, but you also love, right? Because they're as a competitor, you're like, this is, And so, what I want to play for me, are we making it to where we're getting better, but we're also not taking away their joy?
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.